The next day, Finn awoke to the sound of knocking at his door. He got up and headed to the entrance. He didn't care that he hadn't changed out of his tattered brown robes, and opened the door, seeing a Zora guard. "Good morning, sir." Good morning? King Dorfan requests that you enter the domain to speak with him. He has a reward for your actions yesterday. All right, then. I'll come. 30 minutes later. Finn had entered the domain and noticed that almost no one was out today. He followed Baz into the palace, which was designed similar to a fish-like deity in Zora culture, known as Jabu Jabu. There he saw King Dorfan, who was 80 feet in height, sporting traditional royal jewelry and sitting atop a massive throne. He lifted an arm to his lip, invoking a puzzled expression. "Is this the one who had so recklessly saved my daughter's life?" Finn was confused. Reckless? That was what his actions were? He was confused by Dorfan's phrasing of words until Baz spoke up. "Yes, King. This child is the one who saved me, Lady Mifa, with his strange ability." "I see that." "Finn." "Yes, Your Majesty?" "Considering your actions of the previous day and incredible power, we of the Zora royal family have decided to gift you with 3 luxuries found within that chest." He pointed to a Zora-style chest in the left corner of the room, decorated with silver jewelry on top of the chest's blue material. Finn walked over to the chest and unlocked it, seeing what it beheld. He found a nice broadsword, 12 diamonds, and a green tunic with a mint green belt and metal guard that strapped over his shoulder. He put the tunic on, strapped the sword to the belt, and put the rupees in his bag. "That tunic and broadsword were crafted by our blacksmith, Dento, and the rupees are a reward for your bravery against such a powerful threat." "Your Majesty, I have some objections." Near the entrance in the corner of the palace stand a dark green Zora. He was unlike others of his species, though. As his head was flat and frail, he was smaller and more wrinkled. "What is it that you are to say, Muzu? Do you truly believe that this child deserves such a gift?" "Well, considering his actions yesterday, he does deserve these luxuries." "But we do not know what he is. We do not know where he came from." "He is a Daegu scrub, and from what I've heard, he woke up in a forest. That does not excuse him as a threat." "Mother." He immediately stopped and was rather quiet now. He understood that arguing in front of the Zora King was a terrible idea. He cursed at himself for being so idiotic. "I suggest that you leave this room and head back towards the council office." "Yes, Your Majesty." He proceeded to walk bound back the stairs and took a right to the council foyer. "Finn, we apologize for that. Muzu doesn't appreciate strangers, though he does warm up to those who show him dedication to this domain. As for your previous discussion, we have made these luxuries for you due to your heroic yet reckless actions." "Thank you." Finn started to cry, though that wasn't anything new to him, as he had been alone his whole life until now. King Dorfan noticed Finn's crying and took interest in his emotions. "Is something wrong? How come you are sobbing?" "No one's ever given me a gift before. No one has ever accepted me like you have before." I did not realize that. Apologies for my blind thoughts." "Thank you. I think it's time for me to leave now." "I see then. We bless you with safe travels." "All right. Goodbye." 1 hour later. Finn was almost towards his house and was chewing on an apple, looking around at all the trees. He was about to open the door when he heard a rustling noise behind him. The only things he saw when he looked around was a quick flash of a Hylian soldier smashing a club against his head. Finn was knocked unconscious. Half an hour later. Finn woke up but could see nothing. He was blindfolded. He tried to rip the blindfold off but found out that his hands had been shackled to something and sewing on. He tried to stand up but couldn't get up. "Look at the scrub. It's trying to escape." Fyyn then heard an insulting chuckle from others around him, before everyone became quiet as they entered through a door. "I demand to be told where I am." "You're here for your existence. Being a Deku scrub, you are a monster. Monsters are supposed to be killed. Since you are intelligent, you get some special treatment in the Coliseum. And from what I've heard from Zora guard, weird green stuff comes out of your hands that acts like a super punch. So I recommended His Majesty to give you a fighter from your worst nightmares." He suddenly heard loud cheering and screaming, as if they had finally entered the main area. His blindfold was suddenly torn off and he was unshackled, as guards threw him to the floor, showing everyone that he was a Deku scrub. "Dekus burn easily, so this should be fun to watch," was one of the guards' sneers at Fyyn. "What are you talking about?" He assumed that he would face a monster that is either made of or uses fire in some way, so it could be a Red Lizalfos, Fire Case, or Fire Choo-Choo. In the next few minutes, he would realize how wrong he was. "Silence!" Everyone's voices immediately went cold, as Rome stood to a podium to the left of Fyyn, who was eyeing the Deku scrub with intense anger. "This monster has been brought here to be killed by the Lionel, due to its existence and crimes. From what I've heard, the Lionel is terribly starved, so this monster should make a good breakfast. Release the Lionel!" Fyyn witnessed about 10 guards coming down to lift up a large steel door with a pulling system, and the door was secured at the top. The 10 guards immediately sprinted up back to the stands, as Fyyn heard a deep growl coming from the dark chamber. A large, terrifying creature stepped out, and it looked very angry. It was like a centaur, black skin and a red lion mane around its head, giant muscled arms similar to wrestlers, a body like a horse, it had green eyes and bore horrid, sharp teeth. Scars kissed its skin. This was the Lionel, and with a great roar and a draw of its sword, the battle had begun. "I should think of a plan. This thing looks strong enough to oppose me with its fist." The Lionel immediately charged Fyyn, who decided to dodge out of the way, barely avoiding the Lionel's sword by an inch. The Lionel hit the Coliseum wall, but didn't even seem to care about the pain. Fyyn, however, was focused on getting weapons. "They have to have weapons around here." "Oh!" He spied a barrel holding a knight's broadsword and shield, and dashed to collect the weapons. The Lionel noticed his movements and rushed towards him. Fyyn tried to strike him with his sword, but Fyyn was able to catch its attacks with the knight's shield. However, the Lionel knocked Fynn's shield out of his hands with its hoof, picked him up with its left hand, and threw him the mile-long diameter of the circular stadium. The crowd cheered and roared as Fyyn smashed against the wall, and Fyyn got up and noticed his back was bleeding. "Oh, my life." He didn't have time to think, as the Lionel was already rushing towards him, planning to punch him. Fyyn took his broadsword and raised his arm, then stabbed the Lionel in the fist. The Lionel roared in pain, but no blood was coming out because the broadsword blocked it. Fyyn yanked the broadsword out, and some dark green blood came out of the Lionel's index finger. The Lionel was angry now and stole Fynn's broadsword from his hand and crushed it with its fist. It then gave a deep, malicious growl. "Oh, what am I supposed to do?" The Lionel was suddenly choking him and raised him above his head, then bashed Fynn's face with its shield several times. An announcer for the battle suddenly piped up after being silent when King Rome told everyone to be quiet, and reassured the audience that Fyyn would probably die. Everyone watched in shock as Fyyn was slammed against the ground by the Lionel, and once again kicked across the Coliseum. He flew into the wall and was paralyzed. He couldn't move. Small trails of blood were trickling down his back, and his ribs were broken. All of his nerves were paralyzed, and he couldn't move a muscle except for his eyes. All he could do was watch the Lionel prepare its final attack. The Lionel was creating flame energy in its mouth and began charging its power. Finn remembered what the guard had told him before, that Deku Scrubs are weak to fire. If Finn was hit by this attack, he would be incinerated, and only a few ashes would remain. He turned his eyes and looked at the king, but saw other figures standing with him. A Hylian woman, a knight without its helmet, a tall Gerudo woman, a giant Goron, a male Rito, and the Zora woman from yesterday. He recognized the Zora woman instantly, as she had been the only person to ever show him any amount of kindness to him. He felt a strange pulsing sensation on his body, and turned his eyes on his torso and arms. He saw a blue energy pulsing on his body like water. It looked similar to the green energy from his punch in Zora's domain. This energy then flowed around his body, and Finn felt a strange tingling sensation and less pain than before. The crowd went silent when they saw Finn's glowing body, and were curious to why it looked like that. The Lionel was finished charging and blasted its attack at 100% power. As Finn's body was still glowing, the fireball exploded with a fiery light that surprised the cloud. And when the smoke cleared, Finn was alive. He didn't know why, but the strange blue energy must have protected him, as all his wounds were healed. His hair and clothes were still messy, but that didn't irritate him. He felt another pulsing sensation on his arms and hands, and saw the same green energy that he used to punch Sooga. He clenched his fist and got to his feet. Maybe there is a chance after all. The Lionel gave a mighty roar and pulled out both its sword and shield. The Lionel charged at Finn, and Finn dashed towards the Lionel. The green energy was pulsing on his hands, but Finn couldn't activate it willingly, only use it when it did activate. Finn jumped into the air and withdrew his arm into a punch. The green energy now decorated his fist. The Lionel drew its sword back to strike, but Finn punched it in the face with as much might as he could. The green energy empowers his punch beyond normal compatibility and launched the Lionel across the Coliseum. The crowd roared like the explosions of 1,000 suns as the Lionel smashed into the pillar and broke it in half. Finn assumed the crowd was cheering for him, but they only cheered because what he did was awesome. Most were 100% on the Lionel's side. The Lionel got up and roared like a demon, taking out its bow and shooting 3 bomb arrows. Finn's whole body was suddenly pulsing with green energy, and he dodged every bomb arrow. It seems the energy increases my speed and strength. I think I could really win this. He rushed towards the Lionel and withdrew his right arm into a punch, but the Lionel caught it and squeezed it. The Lionel then charged a fireball in his mouth, and Finn was worried. The Lionel then blasted the fire breath at Finn, who was in pain but managed to push through. I don't care if you burn me. Green energy suddenly started covering his whole right arm, and his burns were healed by the uncontrolled water energy. I don't care if you break me. He then pulled his arm from the Lionel's grasp and withdrew it into a punch. Because I am the savior of Hyrule. Finn then put all his might and energy into his right arm and struck the Lionel with so much force it was launched into the sky out of the Coliseum. A Rito bystander in the crowd flew over to the Lionel's body, then back to the announcer. The Lionel is dead. The crowd blasted so many cheers, screams, and roars across the Coliseum that Finn's hearing was almost damaged. Before, they didn't really care about him winning, but they could have never asked for a greater battle. I won. The green energy then disappeared from his body, and Finn's injuries had already been healed from the water energy. He couldn't control either powers yet, but was grateful that he had them.